yeah, that's it. Like, that's me kind of. I haven't had a massively eventful week. It's been just kind of dawdling around.
Yeah.
What I've caught, like, I started watching what we're going to talk about again. I started watching Danger 5, which is why I messaged you about it.
Oh yeah.
But we'll talk about that in a bit. But like, you're back at work properly now. So how are you finding being like in an office again?
Yeah, fine actually. Like it's funny you mentioned that because after work today, like I had to nip round the corner to the shop, and I was just kind of like, it actually just crossed my mind. I was like, oh, it just seems completely. Well, I say seems. It feels as completely normal now that I'm just back in the office, and that's the routine and whatever. Like, I think I mentioned it in the last time we recorded, but yeah, the transition was actually like pretty seamless. It didn't feel like a big adjustment like I thought it would. Like going out of working at home for like 3.5 months. So yeah, no, it's been cool to be honest. Like, it's been cool working with everyone again, and yeah, like kind of being in the office environment, and at the end of the day, yeah, just switching off from work. It's not, it's not my work computer's upstairs, like kind of in the back of your mind all the time. It's like, oh, I'm home now. Like, so yeah, it's been cool, mate. Like everyone's cool, everyone's cracking on. There's a couple of people still working from home at the moment, but it's like 98% of the office are like back in now. So,
has there been any like people that said that they would rather be working from home, or is everyone just kind of, yeah, we're back kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of people felt like that initially, but because we ended up having like a couple of weeks to prepare to go back. I think it was just that. I think for most people, it was the initial. It was just kind of that jolt out of the routine you become accustomed to. Like, oh god, like a bit apprehensive about going back and stuff. But yeah, it's been fine, man. Like they've really put the safety measures in place. Like we've got cleaners in the office like throughout the whole day, just constantly cleaning everything. And like they'll come around to your desk when you're not there and like clean the desk for you and stuff.
Right, okay, that's fair enough.
So yeah, they're really on it. Like it's fine. To be honest, like sounds a bit flippant, and I don't mean it to come across like that. I kind of forget the circumstances we're in. To be honest, that's how comfortable it feels.
Yeah, I mean, I've had that a couple times where I've been doing certain things, and it's only when you see something in particular and you're kind of like, oh yeah, that's the situation that we're in at the moment. But yeah, I'm waiting for the discussions. I'm still waiting for the discussions to be had. But yeah, I'm not sure if we're actually going to go back to the 5 days in the office.
Yeah,
because it hasn't affected our productivity. But I think that's just something to do with kind of the industry that I'm in. Is that because we're supporting people remotely anyway, predominantly, it doesn't really matter where we are as long as everyone has a stable network connection.
Yeah, definitely. Like it definitely varies from to like between jobs, so to speak.
Yeah.
Like for us, there's a lot you can quite easily do working from home and working remotely, but there are a lot of elements of our job that are facilitated much better by being in the office and being with the rest of the teams and stuff. So it's up, you know what I mean? It swings and roundabouts, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on like an extremely time critical job, that can't wait for people to read messages, then being able to shout across the room at someone is kind of important. But
oh yeah,
we like the standard SLA for all support stuff is 4 hours. We were hitting it on everyone all the time before, and we hit it for everyone all the time even now. So it's not like the performance has dropped. It hasn't. It's still pretty much the same. I think the main difference is going to be when kind of more restrictions get lifted, in particular in regards to stuff like public transport, I think, will be going back to clients for like to see them in person. We've started doing it kind of here and there for certain people, but I don't think it's yet fully across the board. Like I've seen four clients in the last month, but it hasn't been using public transport to get there. It's the clients aren't in London, which used to be, I wouldn't call it a stamping ground, but it would be predominantly where I was going to see people, would be going into London, and I haven't been since February.
Yeah, you used to go most weeks.
Yeah, it feels a bit weird, to be honest. Like, I don't want to say it's the longest time that I haven't been in London since like when I first moved there, but it could be just out of. I mean, you don't really keep track of stuff like that. You just kind of go. Like, obviously, before I was going socially, but then I was going for work. So I don't know. Like, it could be that since lockdown, it has been the longest period of time that I haven't been in London since 2008. Oh, even earlier. Because in I just thought like in 2007, I was seeing someone that was living in London. So it could be since 2006, early 2007, that it's the longest time that I haven't been in London.
Yeah, so, like usually we'd have shows and stuff in London. Obviously, that's not been the case this year. Yeah,
exactly. It's one of those weird things. I know that I know quite a lot of people that really don't like London. They don't like going to London. They don't like the tube, and they don't like the attitude of the people. Whereas I'm the opposite. If I could afford it, I would live in London in a heartbeat. I like that. I like the hustle and bustle. I like the city lifestyle of work and go out for a drink afterwards and go home and all of that stuff. Like that way of doing stuff is something that appeals to me, but the costs are too much to live in London. You can't just up sticks and expect to get enough money to be able to afford somewhere decent to live, because it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not easy.
No, not at all. Like, I mean, I feel privileged that I managed to live there as long as I did before I was completely broke. But yeah, like the kind of going off on a tangent about London at that point.
Aside from working, I've been running here, there, and everywhere the last couple of weeks.
So you've messaged me beforehand anyway about like your progress and stuff, but how are you finding the general kind of commitment to doing it? Every day or every other day?
I'm actually really enjoying it. Like, so for a bit of context, like I used to be a lot fitter than I am now. Like in general, this was go back a few years. I used to be like properly into the gym and stuff. And then last few years, really, like I haven't like committed to any kind of fitness. And then I got a sedentary job, so it's like compounded it a lot more. So I used to be a lot more active in terms of fitness, and I had like active physical jobs. And now I don't have either of those things.
I mean, I was going to say, prior to where you are now doing kind of office-based stuff, you were warehouse, weren't you?
Yeah, so like at the fittest I was. So to be fair, this is like 6-7 years ago. So obviously I was younger as well. I was like early to mid-20s. I was doing IKEA warehouse, which was, you know, like kitchen picking and stuff, so like full on. And I was going to the gym like 5 times a week. So I didn't sit down a lot. But whereas now I've worked in an office for the last 4 years, and I haven't been going to the gym 5 times a week. I've probably gone to the gym 5 times a year. But obviously over lockdown, I think I'm definitely not the only person. You know, like there's not a lot you can do. You're sat at home working, then you're sat at home in the evenings. You can't go out. So I think more, you drink more and you just eat more and treat yourself in that way a little bit more. And I'm like, got a little bit chubsters here, just sitting about eating a lot of bacon. So I was like, I'm not a gym head enough to be fussed about going back to the gym when they reopen. Something I'm still a bit not weird about, but I think obviously if there's places where you're at risk of like spreading infection and stuff, like in a gym full of like hot sweaty people, it's probably up there. So I was just like, I'm just gonna start running, like it's free, and it's always something I've wanted to challenge myself to be able to do, because I used to be able to run for like an hour easily on like a treadmill and stuff, but running outside on like terrain is obviously a whole different ball game. So I started about a fortnight. It'd be a fortnight this Sunday. Like I did the first one, and I felt like I was going to die afterwards. I was like, I didn't think it was going to be that hard. But then, literally, the next one onwards, like the difference is crazy. Like your endurance goes up a lot quicker than you think it's going to. And I'm like, I am actively enjoying it. Like I'll get it like on a night where I'm going to go running. I'll get home and I'll spend about 10 minutes. Like I'll just have a drink or something, get changed and go straight out. I don't give myself the time to like relax and be like, I can't be bothered.
I think it's that thing of like, as soon as you sit down, you're not going to get up again.
Yeah, it's so easy just to get comfy and be like, I'll go tomorrow. It's just like, just get it done. At the end of the day, it's like, at the moment for me anyway, it's like, it's 30 minutes, that goes like by like nothing.
It's like one episode of a TV show.
Exactly. And you have that, you've done something beneficial for yourself and you feel good after you've done it. Like, you've achieved something. But yeah, it's really like, and also a couple of years ago as well, like I was like, I'm going to start running, and I actually got running shoes made properly. Like I had the soles like molded to like the arch of my foot and all that, properly made. And I used them like twice, and I'm like, right, I need to get the most out of those running shoes. Otherwise, I've just wasted a load of money. So
yeah, you made the investment. You might as well get the money's worth.
That's it.
Some way.
But yeah, it's been great. Like obviously, it's a really good time of the year to start doing it as well. Like the weather's nice, and the nights are quite like the days are longer. Sorry, so it's not like trying to commit yourself to start doing it in the winter when you're getting up and going home in the dark. Yeah,
that's true. Have you done any running? Like, I mean, it hasn't been nice the entire time since you've started. Have you run in the rain or when it's been like crap weather?
No, because I've just been quite lucky. Like, it seems to have just rained when I've been at work, and it's been okay in the evenings. So I've been quite fortunate in that aspect. Today is the first time of like the hottest one I've had.
It was quite muggy today.
Yeah, and I was like, last Friday it was super hot, so I was like, I pushed it back a day. I was like, I'll go on Saturday because I was like, I know I'm going to struggle in the heat. But today it wasn't to that level, and I was like, no, I can cope with it. But yeah, I felt it, but it wasn't like, I'm fucked. It was just like I got in, I was like, considerably more sweaty. But
yeah,
it's good though. It's good to have, change it up and see what you can deal with.
Yeah.
And I'm quite spoiled in terms of the location now, like where I am living, so I can go one way and run down the canal path, and that goes all the way through Wolverhampton. And if you go the other way, you go to Great Linford and everything. Like it's just a really nice scenic run. Or I can go down the road and follow the route round to the River Ouse. There's loads of nice routes around here. To be honest, it's not like in Wolverhampton where you're just running through like streets.
Yeah, like that's the thing for me is, I mean, around where I am now is not too bad, but I'm thinking that once I feel like I'm putting everything on hold until I move. At that kind of situation at the moment.
Yeah.
But like when I saw that Matt bought a cross trainer, because I was thinking about getting a bike, like an exercise bike, but a cross trainer kind of is that plus arms, if that makes sense.
Yeah, they're wicked cross trainers. Like when just to hark back to like when I used to be like on the gym properly, when I was at my fittest and like best shape, like in terms of like strength and like physique and whatever. That's all the cardio that I did, just cross trainers.
Yeah, so I feel like cardio for me is going to be the bigger thing rather than kind of doing weights, which is what I was doing before.
Yeah.
So I'm debating getting a cross trainer and putting it. I need before I start committing to buying things that are quite large, I need to work out the spaces for everything, because the second bedroom isn't the biggest, and it's going to have a bed in it as well as like my office, like my work desk.
Yeah.
So if it has those two things in it, I need to be careful that I don't start buying big hunks of equipment like cross trainers if it's not going to fit. So yeah, it's a case of waiting to see how everything pans out in regards to furniture when I start moving everything across. But it's definitely something that I was looking at, because I was looking at getting an exercise bike first, and then I was like, well, cross trainer would do more. Along with buying an actual bicycle, so that I can, because what I'm debating doing is when I do go to London is to cycle to the train station and then get the train into like lock up the bike at the train station and then get the train into London and then kind of do it back, because that's about a mile and a half.
Oh, okay.
So, but I just have to. It's one of those things. It's like, well, if I cycle to the train station for work and I end up being a sweaty mess, it's not going to look good. Which is my constant thoughts with doing stuff like that when you're on a commute.
Yeah, obviously I don't commute to work, but I was like, oh, I'd like to. I walked to work the other day, but I was like, oh, I keep thinking about biking to work. But it's what you're saying, like you're gonna be a mess, and there's not like showers and stuff at hours. It's not like I could shout. It's not like I could cycle to my work in like my casuals and then shower and put my like work clothes on. I'd just be like fucked.
Yeah, that's the problem. It's the same with like people that ride motorcycles to work, because they're gonna have to get changed.
Yeah,
like if you're working a job where you have to get changed anyway. For example, I know someone that rides a motorcycle, but they're a care worker, so they have to get into kind of scrubs anyway. It's not so much of a problem. But if you're doing an office job, but then you're kitting yourself out in a whole outfit of protective gear to turn up to work, and then change out of the protective gear into trousers and a shirt, and then you've got to find somewhere to put the gear, it's like faff versus reward.
Yeah.
Is shaky at best. But it's definitely something that I'm like thinking about, because cardio wise, I've got to sort myself out, because my cardio is absolutely awful. Like, I've lost weight over lockdown, but I've made a concerted effort to like not have breakfast basically. So right. It's more of a calorie deficit thing.
Yeah,
that's because I started doing the intermittent fasting. But now I'm not timing it. I'm not looking at a clock basically, but I'm only having lunch and dinner. I don't really snack between meals anyway. So, I mean, in the time since I started doing it, I've lost a stone and a bit.
Oh, so nice, man.
I've got to lose another stone, but that's where doing this stuff, like the cross trainer and stuff, comes in.
Yeah.
So, just got to wait and see, innit? It's just like, at this point in time, I don't know if it was the same for you in Aston, but you're looking at stuff to kind of get, but you can't get it until you move. it's like I've been looking at sofas and stuff on Gumtree, and like I've seen 2 that were really, really good deals that I could just go up and buy because I've got the money for them, but I haven't got anywhere to store them.
Yeah, it's not easy to just have a sofa laying about.
Yeah, and it's that one of those things is like, oh, someone's selling a sofa. It was a good deal. It was local, but I don't have anywhere to put it. It's the same as that in the basement. I want to have a sofa bed, which is where the studio is. I want to have a corner sofa bed thing in there as another spare bedroom. But and someone was selling one. I was like, oh, I could buy that as well because I've got enough cash from saving for this specific thing that I could go and buy it. Again, I've got nowhere to put it, so I can't get it. It's just like a catch-22 where it's like, if I was in the house by now, which I would have been, because it's been the offer accepted on the 2nd of March. So what's that? 2nd of March, 2nd of April, 2nd of May, 2nd of June, 2nd of July. It's nearly 5 months ago.
Yeah,
that I had the offer accepted. It's just like getting frustrating now, wanting to just like move along with stuff, but patience was never one of my best virtues, so I think that's why, as much as anything else.
No, it's a very testing process, like definitely. Like when ours was like relatively smooth, but obviously like the first house we were going for that turned out to be an absolute mare. But we dodged a big bullet. But yeah, the whole process is strenuous. Like it's not enjoyable at all.
Yeah, I don't know what it could be an interesting thing to talk about when I have moved. The difference between someone moving on their own compared to moving as a couple.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got the support of my family because they're helping me with the mortgage, and half of my deposit is inheritance. Like, as much as I have saved, it's pittance compared to the fact that I have been, I don't want to say lucky, with the fact that people that have passed in the last couple of years have been generous.
No, I know what you mean. It's hard to find the right word. I guess it's fortunate, isn't it? For want of a better way to describe it, it's you can't. It's not really a proper word to apply to it, but I know what you mean. I was having the same conversation with someone the other day, and it's
difficult. It's not luck, obviously, because it's someone in my family that has sadly passed away.
Yeah.
But it's the same. I was trying to think of it the other day, like when with things that are happening with the band at the moment, or not happening, or whatever, and the potential things that would be happening down the line. As much as people have noticed by the sweat of our own brow and playing lots of shows and everything, there are certain things that happen because someone or a friend of a friend has got a link or whatever. And it popped into my head, it's like, if someone said, what's your advice for a band starting out? It's not going to be, just hard work pays off. It's hard work, be good, and have links, I guess. And I'm trying to kind of equate it to the fact that the situation that I'm in with the deposit for the house is the fact that I have worked and I have saved. Fair enough, I started saving way later than I should have done. I'm 31 years old now, and I should have moved like 6-7 years ago, rather than faffing about in London, basically, which is what I was doing. And I've saved money and in the number of many thousands of pounds, but at the same time, it just so happens that I've been bestowed with money to get me over the line by external benefactors. I'm just trying to equate it to the fact that hard work's great, but sometimes it's not enough to get you over the line, kind of thing.
Yeah. I think as well in terms of the applying it to the situation of buying a house. I think that's the case for most people of our generation. Like everyone I know, pretty much, who has bought a house, it has been inheritance from like a family member who's like sadly passed away and stuff. Because it's just so expensive now. And unless you're unless you buy some good fortune or fluke in a position where you're just making like stacks of cash, or you've got a rich family who will just give you the money, that's pretty much the only way you can do it now.
Yeah, hang on a second. Someone's at the door.
No worries.
Sorry, next door neighbour's cat jumped over the fence but couldn't jump back.
Mate, I told you about the cat the other night, didn't I?
Did you?
The one that just walked into our room.
Yeah. Fucking cheeky bastard, that cat. Actually, to be fair, it wasn't that cat. I think they've got two. But when they first, the next door neighbours, when they first moved, the other cat did just rock up, like, in the house. Like, it walked into the living room, and my mum fucking hates cats, so she tried to kick it. She was like, get the fuck out of my house.
Oh, God.
So just, like, shooing this cat out of the house. Like, it took a good 2-3 goes before, like, it realised not to come in.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've literally just opened the door and gone, where the hell, what's going on? And then seeing the next door neighbour like walk up the stairs and come out of the house with their cat, because the cat's jumped over the fence and then realised that it can't jump back and got stuck.
Fuck's sake.
It's that thing of getting older and realising, like, oh, I can't do that anymore. It's like, oh shit.
That'll learn you for showing off.
But yeah, back to what we were saying about before is, yeah, it's very difficult. Like, I can't think of anyone that either has inheritance from family or like has had is it an endowment fund? Like a fund that's been set up by their parents that is then given is given to them. Like,
yeah. I think
not like bonds or something like that.
No, yeah.
Like a fund that has been given to them for specific things.
Yeah.
Like, ironically, I spent mine on my iMac. That's where my money that I got when I was, can't remember if I was 18 or 20 when I like got this money. But I mean, it was a big investment, but I mean, it served me well. It's served me until last week.
Yeah,
and I got it into late 2009. So I mean, I can't think of someone that would have a PC that lasted 10 years, to be honest.
Yeah, put in a good shift.
It did. And I've had it apart many times, upgrading bits and everything, but now it's just the internal graphics card's gone pop. And obviously, because it's an all-in-one, like, you can't just kind of replace the graphics card. Well, you can, but it's 150 quid for the part, and there's no guarantee it's going to work. And at that point, it's just like, do you know what? It's not viable for me to try and upgrade a 11-year-old piece of equipment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm hoping that someone will buy it. Someone has the gumption to kind of scavenge it for parts that are working and then can kind of do what they want with it. But yeah, did you want to talk about Justice for the Damned?
Yeah, so yeah, let's start with that. So it's a little bit, well, I'll say it's a little bit late. Obviously, we weren't really doing album discussions previously. But yeah, Justice for the Damned record that came out a couple of months ago, Pain is Power. So I've been jamming that a lot again recently. And it's like, it's really stuck out for me this year among like amongst everything that's come out so far, like particularly within like metal and stuff. And it's like a solid record. Obviously, I'll actually elaborate more on it, but just for a bit of context, first heard this band, I believe it was 2018, and it was actually on a drive to a show. I was in the car with Graham, and for anyone who doesn't know, that's our drummer. And it came up on like suggested artists, so I listened to it. Oh no, I saw they were touring on that Fit for an Autopsy tour. So I was like, oh,
was that 2018?
No,
Christ.
that was 2019, but it was announced like I think late 2018.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So I was like, oh, I'll check them out, and yeah, just one of those bands. Like the first time I listened to it, I was like, yeah, I love it. Like I'm all in with this band. And then, so at that point, they had like one album out, Dragged Through the Dirt, which came out in 2017, and they just put like a new single out, so no Brother, No Friend. And then, yeah, this dropped this year. And if anyone's unfamiliar with their sound, it's kind of like, to be honest, like, I guess really in the truest sense of the word, like word and the genre, they are a metalcore band. It is metal and it's hardcore, and I don't mean that as in like mid 2000s metalcore. I mean like the actual definition of the term.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult one because you say metalcore, people think of either Converge or bands like As I Lay Dying.
Yeah. It's hard to
neither
quantify.
Of those things, and it's not deathcore either.
No, definitely not.
There are death metal elements and hardcore elements. So, and I was going to say like, oh, you could say that they're like beat down death metal, but then people start thinking of bands like Black Breath, not Black Breath, sorry, bloody Black Tongue.
Yeah.
And it's not that at all either. It's kind of,
it's just hard. Like
yeah, it's like the do you remember I played that band I Am from Texas?
Yeah.
They were supporting Die Art Is Murder. And again, it's kind of similar to that. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of difficult. It's its own little subgenre of death metal / hardcore that isn't deathcore. It's just big riffs, aggressive vocals, and two-e's and beatdowns, and kind of it's a bit here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you made it look like that's a good point there. Like it draws from a lot of familiar bases, but their sound feels very much now. It hasn't got a foot in the past. And
no.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the production, it's Will Putney produced this, and obviously his work's stellar. Like, I really like Will Putney's productions because I think like it doesn't have like a one size fits all approach to like the sounds of the albums that he produces.
He doesn't sound. It's not a thing where you hear an album, it's like, oh, Will Putney produce this. It's not like, it's not overtly obvious that it's him that's done it.
Yeah, definitely. I think the kind of, I guess the unifying kind of trait from the albums he produces, and this is me speaking, obviously I'm not a professional producer or anything like that, but just from what my ears tell me, it's just a certain way to kind of, there's a certain kind of attack to the guitars, like on all of his productions. There's something, I don't know, they're very like, there's a particularly kind of aggressive like mid-range in them without it being like horrible to listen to, but they really smack you. And the drums as well. But that's not, I don't mean like he uses the same drum tones and stuff. It's just, it's a particular way the drums and the guitars seem to like hit. Yeah, but brilliant producer, like saying it's not just like, well, this is the Will Putney record, so you're going to sound like this. He definitely highlights the strengths and like characteristics of the bands he produces. Like, he produced that Knock Loose record and it doesn't sound anything like this.
Yeah.
Like, sonically.
Well, that's So we saw them in that Fit for an Autopsy show, and then I saw them supporting Not Loose late last year.
Yeah.
And that's, I guess that's kind of the middle ground of where you would put them, really. Is like,
yeah,
they can support Fit for an Autopsy with Venom Prison, and then they can support Not Loose with, I can't remember the other bands that were playing the Not Loose show. But yeah, it's that. It's not Loose. It's not Fit for an Autopsy. Kind of mush them a bit, and you're kind of there.
Yeah. I mean, you have to check them out to get the full. Obviously, it's hard to convey in words, like to really put it across, like the actual sound. But I mean, I kind of get
Fresh.
it. Yeah. The it's just tough. It's hard. You know, like there's no, and that's speaking of that. There's no frilliness to their music, and I don't mean there isn't any like tact to it or any technical merit. It's not just meat and potatoes, but there's no niceties to it, and I think that's really refreshing in this day and age with a lot of modern kind of metal or whatever. There's a certain concession to, I guess, accessibility. And I don't mean like melody is bad, not at all, but there's nothing on this record where I'm like, oh, this is to try and get a wider appeal, to try and get some, as I say, radio play. It's never going to hit mainstream radio, but you know what I mean. It's not. It doesn't have one foot slightly in the waters of like, oh, we can tack onto this fan base. It's like, no, it is what it is. It's just an absolute beast. It's like I sound very biased. Like, I think it's a fantastic record. And it's, when you compare it to the first album, I thought the first album was great, but this is a big step up in all the directions. Like the writing's more defined and it's more interesting. The riffs are better. The production's a lot better. Like the first one's quite raw, which is cool. Like nothing against that, but getting a bit nerdy about it. They're not like a full on HM2 tone band, but there's HM2 in the guitar tone. It's kind of like blended in. And because of the production of the first record, you lose some of the details, like as we well know, like playing in a band with HM2s. So this, like, yeah, I mean, I just, if nothing else, people into like heavy and aggressive guitar tones, I would say listen to this record, because it's mad how they've got like the clarity with that kind of sound. Like it's super aggressive, like super tight, but it has got that HM2 character to it.
It's something that we personally aim for. Like, we started off wanting to sound like Dismember and Black Breath and whatever else, but then over time it was like, well, we want to have that aggression, but we also want the clarity, and this album is kind of a perfect example of that, basically.
I guess kind of actually like getting onto like the songs and the the actual album itself as a work. It's very, obviously they wouldn't have known this at the time because this would have been recorded last year, ready for release this year. But a lot of the lyrical themes are quite apt right now. There's a lot of stuff dealing with not like, oh, it's about the apocalypse. So it's quite apocalyptic in tone, I would say that. There's a song,
reminds me of something else.
Yeah.
Quote.
And there's a song on there which is one of my favourites called Final Cataclysm. And it's kind of obviously like, on the surface level it's about like a cataclysmic event, but it kind of addresses the it's kind of like about the rat race and people's consumption of media and stuff. Like, for example, the lyric, feeding on the filth that vomits from the screen, why is it so hard to wake and so hard to sleep? A black spot marks on the horizon, it's been growing all week, the dogs are barking as we walk staring at our feet. It's just very like off the time. Like, I think they've really hit the kind of, it's kind of really hit the nail on the head, and like the mood of the year that we're in, and the kind of just the point of history we're in, and how a lot of people feel. I think.
It's funny when you hear stuff like this, and then on the flip side, you get people like, "Oh, bands shouldn't be political." It's like, nah, you're all right, mate. I'll take my political leaned, taking a look at current events and casting a lens on it, or however you want to put it. I think I definitely take those kind of lyrics rather than he raped her and then he killed her, da 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 da, so on and so forth. I have an insatiable lust for the dead and all of that crap. Not saying that I don't listen to it, because I do. I fucking love Cannibal Corpse, but like stuff like that. But it is what it is. It's like I'll listen to that schlock and turn off, but in my mind, it gives me, I don't know, like more intellectual enjoyment, I guess, if the conviction behind the lyrics is because it's something to do with what's happening right now.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like that it's the lyrics on this album are one of the standouts for me. Like I think it's a great album overall. I think the music's brilliant, but yeah, lyrically it's really on point. Like it's so easy to it's a tricky thing to do, I think, where the lyrics are very direct and like you can relate to what's happening there, and it's you don't have to read it between the lines to understand what the songs are about. But the lyrics are also very like artful. They're not just like, you know, black and white. This is what it is. They're very well crafted, and I think that's a difficult thing to do. You can get easily quite lost in metaphor and like get up your own arse a little bit. And then, you know, but then equally you can kind of be too direct, and it almost doesn't read like a song, you know. It almost just reads like a
manifesto,
like like a manifesto or an instruction manual, you know.
I always thought that Warrell Dane from Nevermore was a very good lyricist in treading that line of his stand, like how he would arrange his stanzas and everything like that. And his vocal delivery was very good at it being obvious what it was about, but not being, oh, I'm talking about this. It was like, if you listen to kind of songs like Sentient Six and Inside Four Walls, which is like it's about being in a prison, or the prison system. Things like Final Product. I mean, the opening lines for Final Product is media profits from its latest tragic suicide. No, what was it? I can't remember the full lyrics.
I'm not as au fait with them as you are.
No, it is media something, latest tragic suicide, exploit it, then package it, then a profit from the people who died. Is like the kind of the summary of it. I can't remember exactly what the first line is, but it's basically saying about exploitation of celebrity through the media. Like that's what it's talking about.
Yeah.
And that was, we see it all the time now with tabloid media. We've spoken about it extensively, but this came out in like 2005.
Oh, quite prophetic then.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, Warrell Danes passed away like last year.
Yeah,
he was incredibly diabetic and also had a massive drinking problem, which are two things that don't go well together.
No.
But yeah, I mean, he was good at, like you said, treading that line between not falling into metaphor where it's incomprehensible, and it just being, I do this and then I do that and smash the fash or like whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah,
I mean, it's good to see someone else do it as well, because there's not many people that I think it's obvious what they're talking about without it being explicit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And there are instances on this album where there are very like explicitly direct lyrics, but they're they know where to place them within the context of a song and within the context of the structure of that song to make them have a big impact. So there's a track, No Peace at the Feet of Your Master, and I believe it's about kind of like military atrocities and like hypocrisies, like military actions and stuff like by Western like forces. And there's a lyric before a breakdown, and it's so I'm all alone, I'm a slave to a bitter memory, I can't close my eyes, I see faces in the fucking dark. And it's like, oh, it's really like, it's quite chilling. Yeah, so there's a time and a place to be that blunt, and using it effectively is definitely like an art form within itself.
Yeah, I mean, my lyric writing is completely null and void. Like, I cannot write lyrics to save my life. But it's good when you can see someone that can, and they know how to ebb and flow, and this point of the song is where you should say the explicit thing, what the song is about, or not, like depending on kind of your opinion on how to do it, rather than someone writing lyrics and then just kind of like scattering them over the track. It doesn't matter what the song's doing, they've just written the lyrics irregardless of the song, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
they'll make what they've written fit irregardless of what's happening with the song, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. It doesn't move as like a cohesive thing. Like, it doesn't, the lyrics don't necessarily change with the mood of the music, and rise and fall and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So just like it's like taking a really well prepared dish and then just chucking salt all over it.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to think of like something that like a dish that requires a garnish on one part of the dish, but then the pasta's just gone, or like on all of it.
Yeah,
that's kind of where I'm going with it. Like, I don't know, like you get cheese fondue and they end up like taking the fondue pot and just like tipping out the fondue pot on everything else. Like, it's kind of that. It's like you're smothering everything with just the one speed of the stuff that you're doing, rather than kind of going, this part is where this thing should happen, and this part is where we should talk about something maybe a little bit more abstract, or whatever else.
Yeah, 100%. Like, there's definitely a craft to it. I mean, getting away from the lyrics and getting into because I could talk about the lyrics all night, to be honest. But musically, yeah, as we touched upon, it's got that kind of H&2 element to the guitar sound, but it's very like the riffing and stuff. It's very like words have completely escaped me here. It's very like machine gun precision, it's not sloppy. It's like like dead stops, like loads of I can't think of a better way to describe this, but kind of like modern techniques, like discordant bends and those big pick scrapes and stuff like that. But
yeah, you're kind of going down the kind of, when we're talking about modern stuff, we're talking about the kind of the things that bands like Gojira use.
Yeah.
Like, if someone says what is modern metal, that's normally the band that I would go to.
Yeah.
Is Gojira. I can't think of a better one to describe the modern metal now, really.
Yeah,
kind of like hit everything.
Definitely, and like you definitely hear elements of like Gojira in so many, like, maybe it's not even like directly like, oh, this band sounds like Gojira, but definitely elements of like the guitar playing and like characteristics of that in so many bands now. Like, everyone does the pick scrape thing. We do it in a couple of songs.
Yeah, I mean,
I know it wasn't. It was from Zyklon, wasn't it? Was it Zyklon?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's the song Core Solution. The breakdown in Core Solution has. It's like, it's different. It's slow. Like in Core Solution, it's slower.
Right, yeah.
Rather than the way that Gojira do it is that it sounds like a chord.
Yeah.
Like it's like a raked chord. Whereas in Core Solution, it's slower. You can hear like each note being picked. It's like da 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 da.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, pick scrapes. It's almost like the trope when bands started doing natural harmonics on a lot of stuff because Machine Head were doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we do pick scrapes, like Gojira do pick scrapes. Like Gojira hit a lot of different techniques though in their playing, which you don't realize, and then when you play something, it's like, oh, that's sounds like Gojira.
Yeah, yeah.
It's things like the tapping melody lines, like over singing, and like kind of doing the disjointed palm mute picked riffs with upper chord parts to break it up, and like they have dissonant chords, and it just kind of like it's a bit of a weird one for me because I'm not a massive fan of them, but like when you actually take the parts of it together, you're like, yeah, they kind of encompass almost everything about metal, modern metal, if you want to put it that way. I mean, they're not playing Judas Priest rip-off riffs.
No,
put it that
no,
way.
yeah.
So if I say Gojira sound like metal, you get someone's like, oh, but what about Venom or Iron Maiden or something? It's like, okay, yeah, not that. Like bands from like 1995 onwards, I'm talking about here. They're pulling a lot of stuff like into kind of one thing and making it work for them.
Yeah.
But going back to what you were saying about like Justice for the Damned, the thing that is different with them is that one, they're using the HM2 tone, but they're using it for the sound rather than wanting to sound Swedish.
Yeah.
And they're with the production style or whatever they're doing, and this was the same on the first album, is that they still have a really hefty attack on when they pick.
Yes.
Which is something that I think gets lost with bands that are using just HM2. Like,
yeah,
this is why we've moved away and we use blend pedals and all kinds of different things in order to be able to still have that initial pick attack that we want, while still having the kind of HM2 EQ sound, which is what they're doing, and it's what Harm's Way did on their last album as well, is that it's not going all through it. They've either got another amp feed going on that's just an amp or whatever else, just so that they've got the tone of it, but without it just being the buzzsaw thing that everyone knows about. Again, going back to that I Am band, one of their guitarists plays through an HM2 pedal, but the other one doesn't, which is how they do it live.
Yeah.
So one of them has the quite distinctive Swedish sound, and then the other one is just, I think it's like a TS9 into a Mesa.
Classic.
I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that for me, like, my holy grail sound is to be able to have the initial pick attack of Kill, the Cannibal Corpse album, and specifically to have the first kind of quarter of a second of a pick attack of that initial junk, and then after that to be HM2.
Yeah.
Because you can't get that initial pick attack when you're just running through a HM2 pedal.
No.
It basically just goes whoop. Like, it doesn't have that. That's the best way that I can describe it, is that it's not.
It turns into a flat beat.
What? It doesn't. You don't get that hard initial spike of pick attack.
No, it's just like
you get
it's
almost
that,
like,
isn't it?
Yeah, you get that. Well, listen to Kill by Cannibal Corpse, and you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like, I don't know, Death Walking Terror in particular. Like, just the intro is just palm muting and hammer-ons. Like, it kind of gives you an idea of the tone that I'm talking about. Just having that as well as HM2 is like my holy grail tone for casket feeder anyway, and probably anything else, to be honest. Like, I would just use that tone for whatever band I would be doing. But yeah, again, going completely off the point, but yes, Justice for the Damned are a band that have the HM2 sound, however they still have that pick attack and clarity to be able to do stuff that isn't just Entombed rip-offs.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and kind of getting into like the parts and just the like the riffs and stuff. It's so like, I know I've said this a lot about, but it's just so aggressive. Like the breakdowns are stupid. Like it's not, they're not a band that where it's like, oh, everything's like centers around breakdown and it all leads up to the breakdown. They just come from out of nowhere sometimes and just fucking take your head off. And like, they're not, it's not all just like, oh, big chugging beatdowns. It's like loads of syncopated kick drum breakdowns and stuff like that. It's just like, just kicks your head in. Like, there's no let up like in some of the transitions and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing. If you start falling into the formula of, oh, we're going to lead up to a slower section,
yeah,
and you do it, I don't know, every other song or whatever, then it's going to be, you're falling into kind of formulaic territory.
Yeah, definitely.
Whereas if you're doing it as a surprise or with no lead up, or like you said, there's like more syncopation rather than just dun 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 dun, like, or whatever, then it's going to be more enjoyable, like, or I don't know, it's not going to be a more challenging listen. It's not Igor that we're listening to, but it's, yeah, I guess a more enjoyable listening, because you're going to perk your ears up at it rather than just hearing, oh, they're doing another one of the same style of beatdown.
That's it. And like, when I first listened to this, like, it was a couple of days after it came out, pretty much every song was making me do the face. Like,
yeah,
I just couldn't, like, some of the transitions and bits that were coming in, I was like, just literally, I was just like, I can't get enough of this. And like,
yeah, that was me listening to Depravity this morning when I first heard it. I was like,
yeah,
fucking hell.
And that's what you want, I mean, like, I'm not like the I'm about to sneeze, sorry. But sorry, everyone. Yeah. I'm not like, the encyclopedia of metal, but we've discussed this before in different contexts, but we've both been listening to metal for the majority of our lives now, so
sadly, yeah.
Like, I still love it and I still enjoy it, but it takes a lot for a record to grab me like that and make me go fucking hell, and like really like get me hyped up in that way, and like kind of feel like I've got, like, it's giving me something new. And this did that, it's not reinventing the wheel, like, I'm not saying that, like, but it's a really fresh approach to what they're doing. It's, if you like just like unashamedly like aggressive kind of metal and hardcore, like, you will find something to like on this record, I think. Like, and like, yeah, it's going to appeal to quite a broad church of like fans of heavy music. Like, people into death metal will find things to enjoy, like people into hardcore will definitely find bits to enjoy. Like, and like I'm saying, like I mentioned metalcore at the start, and I think from like both sides of that spectrum, like, as you hit upon, there's bits in there that people definitely pick up on and like run with. Like, yeah, I think the formula to what they're doing and the sound they've got is kind of flawless in a way. I know that's quite high praise, but yeah, I can't think of another band that sounds like them.
Yeah, I think that was the thing for me, is that I am very much guilty of listening to a band and being like, this band is sick, they sound like this and this, and I'll normally pick like 2 or 3 other things that they sound like. Whereas with Justice, you can't. It's like, oh, how do you describe them? Heavy.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, it's like, oh well, what do they sound like? Who do they sound like? Pass. I couldn't tell you. It might be that I'm just not well versed enough in enough different bands, to be honest. But yeah, it's the same. Going back to Depravity, funnily enough, another band from Australia, as Justice for the Damned are from Australia. Listened to them, and I was like, "This is sick. It sounds like Morbid Angel and Suffocation." Hello, you back?
Yeah, there we go. What happened there?
I don't know.
Strange.
Where was I up to?
You're saying they're not a band. It's not like, oh, they sound like this band, but it's like, they just sound. They're just heavy.
Yeah.
Okay,
so I'll repeat what I was saying before. Yeah. So yeah, they're Justice are a band where if someone tried to asked me to describe them, I'll be like, pass. They're a really heavy band. Oh well, what bands they sound like? Also pass. I don't know what they sound like. What I was saying when I got cut off was the Depravity, who are another band from Australia. When I listened to the album this morning, which is what I'm saying about them, is I really enjoyed the album, and I went, this sounds like Morbid Angel and Suffocation. But there's loads of other things going on in there, but that was what my ear picked up on when I was listening to the album.
Yeah.
I don't have that. I don't have that frame of reference with Justice for the Damned. I'm like, yeah, it sounds sick, but I couldn't say that they sound like specific bands. I couldn't tell you what their influences are. There's a weird thing as well. Like I said when I messaged about Depravity, I was like, if you like Vitriol, you'll like this. However, with Vitriol, again, that was another band where I was like, I couldn't tell you directly what their influences are, other than I know that the guy that writes a lot of the music really likes Eric Rutan's guitar playing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think I could say anything about it, which I guess is the difference between the two, is that I said that Depravity, if you like Vitriol, you like Depravity, and Depravity kind of sounds like Vitriol and these other bands. Whereas when I listened to the Vitriol album, I was like, it's kind of its own thing. Like, it's like, how do you describe it? Really, really intense death metal.
Yeah, the sound of your head caving in.
Yeah, who do they sound like? Pass. Again, I don't know. Which is kind of where I'm trying to go with the fact that with Justice for the Damned, it's like you can kind of describe the parts of what they're playing, but at the same time, if someone goes, "Well, who do they sound like?" It's like, I don't know. Like I couldn't tell you who they sound like.
Yeah, and that's such a it's a refreshing thing, and it's something to be really valued in a band. Like, there's so many bands around now, and I don't mean this in a catty way, but there's bands that definitely are trying to sound like other bands. That's undeniable. That's an undeniable fact, and you can pick up on it straight away. But then equally, they're a band. It's because so much has been done and so much ground has already been trod. It is hard to do something that is different and is its own thing. So yeah, commend that.
I think the issue is as well is that, and this is going to sound like I'm shitting on so many people, is that originality is not praised by the general fan base of genres of music, if that makes sense.
No, you're right. People like what they're familiar with. And it's such a shame in a way. Like, don't get me wrong. There's obviously some things which are just conversely to what I just said about you can tell when an artist is just trying to sound like another band. Conversely, you can tell when an artist or a musician is just trying to sound out there or wacky for the sake of it, and it doesn't sound good, But yeah, definitely, there's a lot there is a lot of time given to just kind of again, not sound like a prick, but because some people obviously love them, and I'm not thinking of any bands in particular or any genre in particular. This is true for like most genres of music. There's so many like cookie cutter bands that people love, and then don't give people that are maybe pushing the envelope or actually advancing that genre like the time of day. And it's like, yeah, I guess it's pack mentality.
Well, it was funny when you were saying about people that listen to all kinds of different genres of music are going to find something to enjoy. But we've definitely had experience of the opposite thing happening, where people that listen to certain genres of music, if they hear anything other than the specific genre of music, they're just instantly turned off of a band.
Yeah, and it's weird. Like, I wonder if it's more endemic of people like our age and older. I don't know if young people are like that. Maybe they're more like young people, but you know what I mean, teenagers and stuff. But I don't know if they're a bit more open to that kind of stuff now. It does seem to be like the younger bands that are like coming out with these like strong, kind of strongly identifiable sounds that are like their own sound.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's just a thing in general with age though. Like I'm the opposite. I was a fucking bellend growing up and was like, I am going to only listen to true metal.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. I'm not going to listen to anything else. But other people, not me, were definitely more open-minded, and then you kind of get your niche and you fall into it, and then it's very difficult to get out of that rut. Whereas I did the opposite. I fell into a rut in my late teens, and then kind of when I was at university realised that what I was doing myself a disservice by not listening to different genres of music.
Yeah. I think similar for me, to be honest. I think like it was probably when I was around 19, 20, I started actively listening to like a lot of different stuff and like not just metal and hardcore.
Yeah, mine's a weird one because like we've said about it before. It's like I nearly started listening to like predominantly electronic music, but then the people that were listening to electronic music in my school were bellends, so I was like, well, I'm not going to listen to it then. But yeah, it's good to see when bands are kind of mishmashing stuff. Like, not extremely. Again, going back to Igor. Igor is like one of my favourite artists. The other one being Unexpect, who sadly haven't released anything in 9 years. But they're two bands that throw stuff together, but in a way that's quite jarring. And we're not talking about like elements of similar genres of music. We're talking about black metal and gypsy jazz, like mushed together in the same song, like, which is such a weird departure that if people are like, I don't understand how you can listen to it, I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Like, I completely understand, but it's the way that my head works is that I enjoy that kind of fast-paced mishmash of lots of different things that's going to make you go, how the hell did that just go from one thing to other thing? Or the same with Igor doing baroque, breakcore, death metal, black metal, operatic and growled vocals with Corpse Grinder growling over 8-bit chiptune music, and just this weird kind of absolute cacophony of different things going together.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not as extreme as that by any stretch of the imagination. Like, they're not flip-flopping between genres. They've just taken influences from multiple genres and kind of carved their own sound out of it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, I hope, like, I'd definitely encourage people to check this band out if they haven't, and like really give them a good go. And I hope they're a band that continue to put out material of this standard and are able to continue doing so. I hope they get this, like, I hope they get more of a fan base from this and become a more known name. Like, I think they deserve it. Like, it'd be a real shame if it kind of, I hope it doesn't happen, but it'd be a shame if it kind of fell through the cracks because of everything that's happened this year. It's been a bit of a weird one for a lot of bands, I'm sure, because they haven't been able to. They put their albums out, but they haven't been able to tour to support the albums and stuff like that. So it's it's a strange one. I think there's like exceptions who won't really be affected by that, and I'm only speaking in terms of like metal and like hardcore and stuff, and this is a different conversation for another episode, but that Code Orange record, I think, made such an impact and it had so much buzz around it. And they've done, to be fair as well, they've done a lot of creative things to kind of sustain that record and promote it outside of being able to tour. So fair play, but that's not going to fall through the cracks. I think that's going to be in so many like end of year lists, to be honest.
Yeah, they did good with their guerrilla marketing campaign.
Yeah,
it's a weird one because obviously they have backing now and they're on a label and there's money behind them, but the stuff that they're doing with the money is very different to your traditional kind of ad campaign. So whether or not, I would assume that there at least someone in the band is having a direct influence on the output of the music because it's such a specific vision.
Yes.
With them as a band, which is, I'm not going to say refreshing. It's not refreshing because other bands do it, but it's very unique that they've managed to, I don't know, it's like imagine 90s hacker tech with the way that they portray what's going on in their imagery.
Yeah,
is the best way that I can describe it. Is imagine that you're in cyberspace in the mid 90s. What would the graphics look like? And that's what I imagine, like their teaser videos and stuff all looking like, because it's not 80s. When we look back at 80s and we talk about like the synthwave stuff, there's a very distinct grid imagery and like their kind of neon lights and the palm trees and like the specific, like the way that they do the sun in a lot of things, and there's like mountains but line work and stuff, which is all very synthwave, very 80s looking. It's not that kind of grid. It's like a different, like straight up grid looking thing with stuff put over the grid, like the grid, and it's usually 3D rather than 2D, which I think is a differentiating factor.
Yeah,
for the way that they're going about doing this kind of mid to late 90s computer animation style thing that they've got going on. Whether or not it's a conscientious effort, I don't know. In regards to it being that they wanted to go for like this mid 90s computer generated vibe, or if it's just a thing that they've wanted to go for subconsciously, with that they've seen something and they're like, we like the way that looks. The only downside I'll say about Code Orange is that their merch is always crap, in my opinion. I don't like any of their merch that they put out. I haven't seen a single piece of Code Orange merch that I've been like, yeah, I'll definitely buy that.
Yeah, it's very I'd say their merch is very like Marmite.
Yeah, again, it's very distinctive. Like you don't even have to read what it is to know that it's Code Orange merch. But I'm a person that predominantly deals with full front print, big front print designs, and they very rarely do full front print designs. It's something as well that I find incredibly annoying with a lot of like shows and stuff that I watch on YouTube, is that they will 100% only do pocket prints on the front of their shirts. They do full back prints and then they do a pocket print on the front. I'm just like, well, you're not going to get my money because I don't like any of the stuff that you've got for sale, so I'm just not going to even bother with it. And it never changes. They'll put out like 20, 30 different shirts a year, and every single one of them is pocket print and full back print. It's like, do you know what? Just no, that's not for me at all. That's not appealing in any way, shape or form.
Prisoner.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess to sum it up, like, yeah, check this record out. Justice for the Damned, Pain is Power. It's like I say, it's difficult. Like, well, like we're both saying, I can't really surmise it into like, oh, if you're a fan of this band, check it out. But for some loose kind of, loose kind of ideas, I guess, if you're into bands like Acacia Strain, Knocked Loose, like kind of like black and death metal bands as well, like give it a go. Like, I'm pretty sure you'll enjoy it and want to turn your house inside out playing it at full blast. So crack on, give them all your support, like follow them on socials and stuff. Like we need to like, as a community, we need to back bands like this because they are pushing things forward, I think, and they're making like stellar material. So yeah, go and check it out.
If you like the output of labels like Death Wish or like Southern Lord, and I don't know, to a lesser extent, some of the stuff that Relapse puts out, I think those are kind of good ballparks. If you enjoy the output of those labels, you're probably going to be in the right frame of mind to enjoy Justice for the Damned.
Yeah, I'd say like Closed Casket as well. Like if you like their roster, like you probably this probably be up your street.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's not talk about Danger 5 this week. We can do it next week. I need to watch some more episodes of it again anyway, because the last time I watched it was like 2014, I think.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's cool, because it means I can watch some more as well, because I've seen and watched that first episode.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's only 12 episodes in total.
Oh, okay, cool.
Each season's 6 episodes. So yeah, next week we'll talk about Danger 5, which is a TV show. It's just going to be Australian stuff. Are we going to like have this really weird tangent where we just talk about Australian stuff?
Just watch watch our listener stats go up in Australia.
Australia, yeah.
Come on, Vegemite sponsorship.
So again, we've talked about 2 Australian bands, and now we'll talk about next week. We're going to talk about an Australian TV show. It's an Australian TV show that was made in 2012. That's about 5 secret agents that are trying to kill Hitler, which is it's possibly the most batshit live action comedy show that I think has ever been put out. The fact that they did it live action rather than animated is mental. But yeah. If we'll watch some more episodes, I will watch the rest because I'm sure that there are some in jokes and stuff that I've missed that I don't remember because of it's been 5-6 years since I've watched it. But yeah, we'll save that for next week.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yes. This has been the BritHick with Connor and Aaron. We're trying something a little bit different. We're going to pick kind of one thing to talk about in media in general. So TV show, film, album, and try and kind of like riff off of it. So if anyone has any ideas that you kind of want us to cover, give us a shout and let us know on our social media channels. So we've got Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I think that's it. We've got a Twitch and a YouTube channel as well. We'll put stuff out on that when lockdown has kind of eased up a bit. We might do some kind of Twitch streams of like random stuff outside of the podcast when we're both in kind of the same vicinity, and see what happens. So yeah, thank you very much. We'll see you next week, hopefully.
Thanks, everyone.